In today's video, I talked to the returning Paul Isaacs. He was a guest in Series 5 which took place in 2024. We catch up on what has happened since his episode of the Autism Connections. We speak about a range of subjects and topics, and we speak about the challenges autistic people may have and what still needs to improve. Hi all, and welcome to another series of the Autism Connections. This is Series 6. We are celebrating 5 years, and I'm getting back guests from every series. So from Series 5, that was 10 months ago, we have got Paul Isaacs back on. Paul, thank you for coming on the show again.
Yeah, lovely to see you. Yeah, it's great to be here.
So my first question for you, Paul, would be, in the last sort of, let's just say 10 months, you know, what has changed for you, and what do you think has changed in terms of neurodiversity and autism?
Big question. So on a sort of professional note, where we are now, this is my new office that's based in Tomley Families. And I've been here for about 2 weeks. This was a big deal to me, actually branching out and getting my own office, networking, because Tomley Families is a disability charity that obviously includes autism. So I've been doing a lot of networking on the campus. So that has been a big thing for me on a sort of professional level, because I'm looking more at consultancy. Obviously I do speeches and training and workshops, but the consultancy aspect here is what I'm focusing on at the moment. With regards to the next part about changes in autism and neurodiversity, something I have noticed, and it's just a little caveat, is on some platforms, be it LinkedIn or Instagram, I suppose there is an influx of various different types of information. I don't know if you've noticed, you get infographics or you get vlogs, things like this, which is positive, and the only thing that I can see that could potentially curtail that is when the information isn't correct or the information isn't accurate, and of course that has a huge impact on everything, doesn't it? Diagnosis, autistic individuals, professionals, parents, families. It's like chucking a rock into a lake, you know, it will have an impact. So on one hand, you're seeing more information. And when I think back to not just 10 months ago, but 10 years ago, things have changed. Some of those things I personally like. Some of them, as I've mentioned, I'm a bit uneasy about, purely from, if you want to supply information, it's got to be accurate, it's got to be authentic. There has to be, I suppose, a level of objectivity to what you're doing. So I hope that answers the broad question in terms of splitting it into two. One aspect, I've got an office, and that's about my professional career. And the other aspect is just observations of neurodiversity and autism in terms of the community and what's going on.
No, absolutely. That was a really good answer. It sort of does lead me into, off the back of that. So, is it the disinformation that's coming out that's quite problematic? Because I think I saw a news article the other day. I can't remember what paper it was, but it was a paper that claimed that there's a pill in America that can cure autism.
I think it was the Daily Mail, but don't quote me on that.
I think you're right. I wanted to say Daily Mail, but
Yes.
I wasn't too sure.
I think there's been a lot of misunderstanding about that. I mean, with a rag, they want clicks, clickbait, reaction. Doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative, people are going to talk about it, aren't they? So with regards to the context, I suppose, of the article, in terms of it curing autism, personally I haven't read the article, but I have seen reactions, so I can only give a kind of outsider's perspective. I'd have to actually look at the article a bit more thoroughly. I suppose with anything with the word cure, it's going to whip up debate within the autism community. There are parents who desperately want it. There are individuals and parents who don't want it. And I suppose my whole philosophy with autism is to look at it from a holistic point of view. And I've done a few blogs on it and shared my views in speeches, and I've probably spoken to you about it as well. I view autism in a three-dimensional way, so it's holistic. So I almost think what we need to do is, rather than looking at autism, we have to start looking at autisms, and I believe I have said that before. And why I say that is that there are different things going on for different people. You could line 100 people up with the same diagnosis or similar diagnosis, and you would get different, as Donna Williams would call, fruit salads. Donna Williams was an autism advocate, speaker, trainer. She was diagnosed in the 60s. And what she realised is what I realised when you talk to parents, like I've spoken to parents here, is the differences, the underlying differences in presentation. I met one mother who her daughter had a very complex fruit salad, in the sense that there was autism. She had a genetic mutation, so that meant that she was predispositioned to schizophrenia and psychosis. Okay. So then you get into this idea that, okay, so there can be predispositions, there can be different genes that can then have an impact on development, which is fine, because I'm talking about from an objective point of view. These are things that can happen in development. I suppose when it gets very emotive, and it does, doesn't it, is when you start saying, well, what if that wasn't there? Or what if this didn't exist? Then you go down the road of eugenics. And in eugenics, people don't realise, is on a spectrum. So one could look at, say, something like a cancer cell, and you would try and get rid of that, and that is a form of eugenics. You're trying to find a way to get rid of it or alleviate it or make it a milder form. I don't know. I'm only hypothesising. So even as I'm saying this, isn't it tricky? So the way I view it is to be a moderate. Yeah. So moderate means, just to explain to the audience, so if we're going to politicise autism a bit, you've got the culturalists on one side who believe autism is everything about you. They usually use identity first language, which is fine if it marries up with your view of yourself, and anything that could be viewed as taken away from your autism, you'd be taking away parts of yourself. And then you've got the curious, on one side it's a disease narrative. They may use interchangeably the word like disease, in the clinical sense, dis-ease of unease, and disorder, in the context that this is a disorder in that is it, that is what it is. And the narrative may be, that this needs to be cured. And these two extremes butt heads as they do. So the moderate is the individual, I suppose, that could be viewed as a bit wishy-washy, or not...
impartial.
Yeah, I am impartial, and partly the reason why I am is even if I don't agree with someone or parts of their viewpoints, what I've learned to do as a consultant in particular is listen. Whatever my viewpoints are, listen, and that's what I've done with parents and autistic individuals, is listen. So I think the answer to the question is we have to be very careful with when a paper supplies a piece of information that is potentially weaponised, potentially inflammatory, and then of course whips everybody up into a debate or that may go very well, but I can't. The cynic in me just cannot see that there are good intentions. Do you see where I'm going?
Yeah.
Now, if you want to talk about autism and the fruit salad aspect where there are other things within their fruit salad which are impacting their information processing challenges. So let's think about dietary disabilities. Donna Williams, she had a whole host of dietary disabilities, vitamin malabsorption. She used to get thrush, terribly. And even, thrush, it's mild. If it's persistent and it keeps happening because your immunity is suppressed or compromised, it can cause mild brain neuroinflammation, which then, whatever information processing challenges that child has, is alleviated. So it'd be like a foggy brain, or it may further impact on executive functioning, or they're struggling, they're poorly, they're not feeling well. I told you before we filmed, I've had a cold and I've got a swollen lymph node which was bothering me because it hurts, but I feel under the weather, and I've had thrush. That's not nice. I can tell you, it's not just a furry tongue. Mm-hmm. There's an imbalance in your body which you need to rectify. So your pH level is usually high, so that's acidity. So if your pH level's high, it's good to get neutral in the green. So if that is a part of someone's fruit salad, you would try and look at alleviating it. Not because you're curing. I want to make this point. Yeah. You're not unautisticing them. What you're doing is you're looking objectively. It's the same with seizures. I mean, there's a far too high correlation. You've spoken personally about it to me with autism. I've seen statistics that range from 70 to 80 to even 90% of autistic individuals have seizure disorders. Now, I would like to see some research into that. Yeah. To see why this is happening, the electrical activity in the brain, why is this happening, the different types, why is there such a strong correlation? I think that's why I'm a moderate, because you're not always going to hear what you want to hear, and that's their right. And also, through the 15 years of being an advocate, I have not yet to see an individual who's a carbon copy of the next in terms of presentation. There may well be similarities in attitude and characteristics, outlook, but then you're going more into personality, aren't you, than just autism. So I think we have to just be very sort of mindful of where we're going, recognise where we are, but also recognise where we're going, because I think this debate will always be there. I don't think it's about how we moderate it, how we listen. You don't have to agree, do you? And imagining someone else's reality can be difficult. You know, how are they feeling? What do they feel about this? But I just, again, tried to take the point of view that, you know, I could learn something new, or I've never thought of it like that before, or, oh, I've never heard of that. You know, I've never heard of that syndrome, or what it's called, or how it presents. That's very interesting. So, yeah, I think one should try and be open-minded and look beyond their reality, like my autistic reality is mine, yours is yours.
Yeah.
But I always try to look beyond my own for the sake of my work, actually, because if I just was static, there'd be no manoeuvrability. I need to be on the move, because everything's moving. It gets a bit overwhelming at times, but you know, research, as you've seen on different platforms, it's moving, and it's very different to how it was even 10 years ago, I'd say. That's the comparison I've got in my mind from 10 years to now. But yeah, when it comes to things like cure, A, it's always going to create a debate, and B, we just have to be mindful of what the objective is, you know, of the papers to write things like that. I hope that answers that question.
No, I think you've answered it quite articulate, really. Because you know, there's elements to my conditions where if something like, you know, someone offered me a pill tomorrow to rid me of all my conditions, I'd be quite scared, because I very much along the lines of what you said, you know, I think I am who I am now, a lot to do with my conditions, how I brought up, how I was up, and everything else. But would I want to get rid of the constant sensory overload, or would I get rid of the constant headaches, or would I want to get rid of the constant anxiety and stress that comes along with those? Yeah, so there's definitely.
I think it's about being honest and not feeling ashamed that there are going to be some days that are hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that day will be every day. You know, you won't have those thoughts every day. But I don't think it is a weakness to recognise the challenges within autism, or that you're somehow being very negative for negative's sake. I think you've got to be real, and when you're objective, you're actually you're taking in the positive and the negative. You know, that's what you do, or I mean, that's what I try and do.
Yeah.
So, but you make perfect sense about what you clearly would like not to be there, and equally, it would be such a weird thing for them not to be there.
Yeah.
Because all you know is your experiences. That's human, isn't it? We're trapped in this flesh cage, so I call it.
Yeah.
Until we die, and we've got to try and work for it. So I kind of have the philosophy that obviously I've been dealt cards that are completely out of my control. So I've got to try and use the most of what I've got.
You've got to try and win a game of poker with, you know, a pair of twos.
That's correct, yeah. That's a good way of looking at it, yeah. It's what you've got. it's what I've got. And I think some people quite rightfully get very emotive, you know, oh dear. But, you know, I don't think there is or shouldn't be an issue about when you're an advocate explaining some of the difficulties you have. There shouldn't be any stigma, because that is part of the condition, made up of conditions, that there are going to be challenges.
Yeah.
That could be internal challenges as well as, you know, external from other people. But they're not mutually exclusive. You can have both, can't you?
Yeah.
I mean,
that can get complicated as well, because it's like a battle within yourself versus a battle with other people.
Yes.
And you're often left wondering, am I the problem?
Indeed.
So it can be that inner battle. You know, I'm all for self-reflecting, self-awareness, and
yes.
Do I get everything right? No. You know, there's
No,
absolutely not. But I'd like to think I'm at the point in my life where I'm self-aware to know if it is me or if it is something outside of my control. I think the biggest thing in any situation like that is communication. And if no one can sort of sit down and have that conversation with you, then you're both fighting a losing battle.
Yeah, you're right. It is about self-reflection, and self-reflection is a dance. It's about you and other people, and some of the biggest lessons I've learned, if not are when I'm wrong about a person, about a perspective I've had, about a belief. And that is probably those biggest moments of being learned are when a mistake is made, when an error is made, when the reality of that situation was not anything what you built it up to be. And I say this with no facetiousness. I can be hard work for other people. It can be hard work being around me, but I don't say that in the sense that I'm, generically a bad person or in a sort of black and white way. Sometimes my challenges are confusing to other people, so I am willing, or try to be willing. There has to be a bit of leeway, as you say, of this is
two-way street.
It's a two-way street, and challenges can work both ways. I mean, a lot of my skills aren't transferable. So the fact that I can do public speaking doesn't mean in a domestic setting that I have the same skill set. Getting dressed is taken a very long time to master. I can do it now. The same with self-care, but it almost feels artificial. All those things feel very artificial. I've learned to do them, but there is still a detachment. There's an artificiality to them. Shaving, brushing my teeth, combing my hair.
I'm not ashamed to admit it, for years and years and years of my childhood, brushing teeth was a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think, some people are like, oh God, that's disgusting. But actually that is the reality. Is there's a lot of, there's still a lot of skill sets now that it's funny. So I'm a very tidy person.
Yes.
But when it comes to doing things like folding a piece of clothing, my tidy will be, that looks alright. Someone else will come in and go, you folded that completely,
the wrong way, or the arms don't look right.
Yeah.
I've got a specific way of folding trousers, which I know I've been told wrong every time. I pinch like them and fold them like that. And go down like that.
Yeah.
It is wrong, technically.
That's only wrong from a point of cultural behaviour and whatever.
True. There is a cultural element, and probably the individual. It's my mother again. She got that skill set from her mum, so that was the Edwardian times.
Yeah.
And Nan was an excellent washer. And I'm not saying that in a chauvinistic sense. Unfortunately, that was the culture then, wasn't it? The sort of female role.
Yeah.
So I want to just point that out as a very much needed caveat. I'm not saying that it was less. I'm just saying that the roles were very different in my nan and grand's generation. But cleaning, missing stuff, or not thinking about it, I think is my issue. My room gets very dusty, and my parents often joke, you don't see the dust. It's there, but you don't see it. And things like doing using the washing machine.
I was about to say washing up, ironing, all those things are skills. Even cooking, even at the age of 28, I still honestly hardly do, because it's just not. I don't know. I just. Is it a bit of laziness? Maybe, but at the same time, I've just never felt comfortable.
I would joke that if you wanted me to do a roast dinner, be prepared to have it at midnight.
Yeah.
Because I can remember when I do offer to help, my mum notices straight away, God, it looks so awkward. And I said, it's because it is. So she'd get me to peel the potatoes, and I can't do it.
Yeah.
I just slice them. She says it's so and also times.
Oh,
so if I had like potatoes on the boil, then carrots, but all the prep, it's not, you have to do something to the vegetables first to prep them.
And it's second nature to some people,
my nan was a past master at it. I mean, she really I used to be in awe. I mean, she passed away some time ago, but I used to be, before she got quite frail and she stopped cooking, when she did cook, like the Sunday dinners, I used to be in awe. Yeah. Because everything, the whole day would be about that Sunday roast. So she'd get up, scrape the chicken, stuff the chicken, make the stuffing herself, with breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Everything was all there, very organised, and gravy she heated up on the tray, and everything was done in a fluid way. Whereas what I think me and you are saying, that skill set, we can do it. But I don't know if I'd even eat it. That would be my other thing. Not because it's bad, because of there's a psychology, isn't there? Some people, not just autistic individuals, struggle to eat what they prepare. I actually relate to that.
Well, I'd just be worried that I've got it wrong and I'll make someone ill.
That's true, particularly with meat.
Yeah.
And meat, I think I always go for broke, and burnt is at least means you're going to be all right.
Yeah, because people always go, "Oh, you know when it's cooked," and I just sort of go, "Do you?
Do you? Yeah."
Oh, it'll be pink. If it's pink, and I'm like, sometimes pink is good, sometimes pink's bad, and pink.
I peeled a chicken away that was cooked for hours. It was pink.
Yeah.
It's all right, but I saw pink.
Yeah.
And I remember. when I was very young. How I didn't end up in hospital, I don't know. I think I thought it was ham. And I went into the fridge and got what I thought was ham, you know, just like cut ham, and got some salad cream and just dipped it in the salad cream. And my mum sort of realised what I was chomping on. It was raw bacon.
Oh.
And how, you know, I was lucky, I think.
Yeah.
She kind of said,
"What's that?"
What's that? And I've done really odd things as well, like on the cuff, which has shocked me.
Yeah.
So that's the paradox. I remember when my parents went holiday for a week and I was left on my own. And I had in my head, there's a dumpling mix, you know, what you put in stews and things like that. I thought, I'm going to have a go at that. But they didn't look like dumplings at all. They looked like meringues because they were very shiny and they kind of rose like little mountains.
Yeah.
I ate them all, which I do have a problem with food. I really do, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I was actually quite proud.
Yeah.
Because obviously standards. Obviously, if they would have been, they'd have joked. Look at those meringues.
But it does take it out of you. Like I've cooked a meal, and by the end of it, I am absolutely shattered.
Yeah.
Because it's so over stimulating. Again, where people can just sort of do it.
Yeah.
And it's again like your nan. You know, she's just very. Oh yeah, I'll do that. Right, yeah. And I'm like that with certain things. So
yeah,
you know, my mum and dad always joke, I'm not a labour like sort of person. You know, manual labour's not.
I had a go at it, but it was. I tried. I mean, my dad got me a. This is going back many years when I was a teenager. I worked at a bed making factory where my dad worked. Now, my dad's a natural labourer. He doesn't do it anymore because of being poorly. But when he was well, he was a labourer through and through. And what I learned in that culture of men, you've got this awkward teenager about, and you know, you have to learn the ropes a bit. You have to learn banter, mickey taking, and things did happen. I mean, one of the things that got me is I would sweep round the frame makers, and of course, when they make these frames, there's dust and sawdust everywhere, and you sweep these clumps of it up. And what he done, I didn't realise what he was doing. He was being cruel. He boiled some water and then he put it on the floor. So when I swept it up, it clumped. And he was laughing and I was so naive. And then it twigged, you've done this to me. You've done it on purpose. And I didn't go in the next day, and he didn't realise my dad worked up the other end. So he went down to my dad very worried. I didn't know he was your son. It was him doing a lot of the talking.
Yes.
But what was interesting the next day, now whether it was genuine or not, is he came up sort of behind me, so he did sort of make me jump, and he put his arm around me. He said, I'm very sorry for doing what I did. And it was actually all right then, funnily enough. I mean, whether it's because he knew Dad was down there, I don't know. I mean, it probably helped.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I was there for, was it 6 to 8 weeks? I can't remember. But, you know, I was with a lovely man called. He was very humorous, and unfortunately, I saw a lot of racism toward him, which was quite uncomfortable.
And do you think that was, or do you think that was again banter, or do you think that was out and out?
Was
it a very fine line?
I think the racism was awful, and it was to wind him up. But what I admired about is it never deterred him from his work. He had a strong work ethic, and he kind of took me under his wing for that month and a half.
Yeah.
And I can't repeat some of the words he used to say to the men, but he would give them. as good as because it was totally, you know, I can't understand what you're saying, all the sort of cliched, racist jokes, or he was, I used to find him amazing, and he was always very jolly, despite having to deal with quite a lot of things on the shop floor. But like you, could I cope as a labourer? From hearing my father, who, you know, worked in bed making, to working on as on a building site with Irishmen who were very, it was back in the 70s, you know, very strong work ethic, to working at a foundry, what was it, Lucy's, it was to do, I think it was to do with steel, you know, metal, you know, there was a hot furnace, so you'd be hot, so if you had sensory issues around heat, forget it, you'd be sweating all day. And also, you know, you have to protect your eyes, but also the social aspect. And he always said to me, Paul, I'm going to be honest, I don't think you have it. You would really struggle. But his incentive was, as he said, I had a family. That was his drive, you know, money for the family, a parental responsibility. So yeah, I think labouring isn't my forte. Clumsiness, and getting practicalities wrong when you need them to be done right. For example, if I was a bricklayer, it would be the worst house. It would. It'd be interesting looking, but I don't know how it, you know, whether people could live in it or whether it would crumble. I don't know, but it would be. I don't think it's bad to know your weaknesses.
No.
And the self-deprecating laughter is because it is kind of funny that I can't, that in an odd way I can do this, but cannot do things that people would think are quite simple or quite routine. Ironically, autism and routine based, you know, cooking. It's a routine. And I do admire people who can cook. I mean, one of my friends, she used to make these amazing cakes, and you know, from the bottom up, you know, it wasn't bought. You know, it was all made, and it would amaze me. I struggle like you to do the basics. I mean, you know, boiling an egg is I can do it, but I know there's all, even that is quite fluid, or the closest to fluid you're going to get with me. But yeah, you know, but everything is still being thought out. It's not there. So getting the cutlery, getting the egg cut, everything feels awkward. I'm doing it, but it feels awkward.
It's mentally draining.
There's a conscious effort, whereas me doing public speaking, nothing. Could talk all day. And it does confuse people, even my parents. You know, why can't you do that? Or what is the issue? And I do talk about transferable skills, and they go, oh, you know. But it is, I'm glad they can point it out. It doesn't bother me. They just struggle, and like I struggle with what they struggle with.
And you could meet the next autistic person that thrives in that and can cook and is really good at bricklaying, or is
absolutely. You know,
and it is just, again, like you said earlier, it's that carbon copy. It just never happens.
And it is annoying when you get stereotypes about what an autistic person can do as much as what they can't.
It's like maths, isn't it?
Mathematicians, sort of hyperlogical individuals. There is a place for them, of course, but I think the sort of geek syndrome thing, it's again, stereotypes aren't helpful.
No.
And maths and physics and geometry, I'm afraid, are not my forte. In fact, for me, it's more art, it's more poetry, it's more creative writing.
Yeah.
Things that you maybe traditionally wouldn't associate with someone who's diagnosed with autism, because you would think, right, black and white thinking, logical, literal, that must be the way they're going to go. But
it makes me laugh. I mean, you know, my special sort of interest is wrestling.
Yes.
Right? And wrestling, you know, I mean, people might say it's very black and white, you know, people get in the ring, they fight, but we you know, me and you both know with wrestling, it's about storytelling and telling stories, and 1 minute you could have someone breaking into someone's house trying to kill them.
Yes.
You know, to the next minute they're tag teaming a couple of years later, you know, and that's not very logical, but I think once you understand something for what it is, you know, it's a bit like when people go to see Superman or Spider-Man. Once you know what it is, you're okay with it. But that's
and you have all those multi-universe things where you're getting like tag teams of plunder, aren't you? You're getting Superman and I mean, what's the recent one? Deadpool and Wolverine tag teaming.
Yeah.
It's like all these characters, I suppose, that sort of larger than life, and they're almost superhuman. Well, some of them are billed as such, aren't they? The sort of the giants. You know, I think I'm thinking of a specific time in wrestling, like Undertaker and Kane. That was a specific time where, maybe now that wouldn't be as well received, but at that moment, at that time, it was an amazing storyline, and the individual who portrayed Kane was having terrible gimmicks, and this was his golden goose, to get over. So and once you kind of understand the lingo, getting over, heel, babyface, or interesting enough, UK. Do you know what the UK version is of babyface?
I don't actually.
Blue Eye.
Was it okay?
Blue Eye.
I suppose it makes sense. Blue Eye Boy.
There you go.
Yeah.
I've been watching a bit of Wrestle Me. I do like those two.
Yeah.
They make me chuckle. We can't repeat anything Wrestle Me. There's a lot of dark humour at times. But some of the old UK stuff they've done, like Dad remembers, you know.
Yeah.
Johnny Quango, Big Daddy, John Hayes. So and it is story. You're going back to story. It's quite abstract.
Yeah.
I mean, at what time would you ever see a man who's almost 7 foot come out looking like some sort of Jason Voorhees and shooting fire from his hand?
Yeah.
And his brother comes out in sort of black leather and he can shoot thunderbolts and come back from the dead.
Yeah, multiple times.
So that's very abstract. You can enjoy it.
Yeah.
I was one of the people who pointed out to my friend it wasn't real.
Yeah.
And he was devastated. And I remember which match I was watching. And it was Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus Mankind, SummerSlam 97.
Good.
And it was a blinder of a pile driver, you know, the stump puller he does. And I said, no. If that was real,
he'd be dead.
I mean, it's a brilliant... I always liked how Mick done it anyway, you know, where he'd sort of drop. It's one of my favourite matches, actually. I used to watch it over and over. I used to, you know, when he, becomes... I don't think it's translated well, is it? Because he's sweating at that point. So when he pulls the Mankind...
sort of a
costume, it's a bit of a runny heart, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that took me ages to piece that's... At that point, that's the dude, isn't it?
Yeah, dude.
The dude done the elbow, not Mankind, although they say it was Mankind. But going back, and again, that is a character that apparently lived in a boiler room all his life.
It's funny what you've gone through that, you've watched it, you know, and it's still
still
there.
It's still there. I remember that. It was like a probably it was on the Blu-ray actually that came out quite some time ago now.
But it does lead. So my last question, because when we talk about wrestling
forever,
my last question would be to you. So obviously, 10 months ago we done a video. 10 months later we're doing this video. If you could see significant changes within neurodiversity autism, say we're doing a video in the next 10 months.
Yes.
What would you hope that we've accomplished? In terms of the world, what the world has accomplished in terms of neurodiversity and autism?
I suppose what I would like to see, very simply, and we've kind of alluded to it, is a breaking down of the stereotypes, to keep breaking down those stereotypes, to keep on at that, keep chipping away at it, because this affects everything. It affects communities, it affects education, it affects employment, it affects care homes. If you keep getting stereotypes, be careful who's listening to them and how they internalise them. Because stereotypes, in the context that I'm talking about, it means that it's not a judgment, it's just that the person needs a bit more information, or quite a lot more information. Gaps need to be filled. Some cases they need to be filled rather quickly, because if someone's got this assumption of what autism is, or indeed what it isn't, and it's about bridge building.
Yeah.
I don't like all this fighting, as you probably got the impression from the first question.
Yeah.
So, a bit more bridge building, not all this autistic versus non-autistic stuff, which doesn't help anyone.
Yeah.
You know, why should one be tarred as the enemy in a very sort of generalistic way? I've never ever seen non-autistic people as the enemy.
No.
Because that kind of counters everything, doesn't it? It's
division, isn't it?
It's division, and I suppose division makes me uncomfortable, because, and I think there is a very good reason, that the feeling of being outside or being divided from things, where in my earlier years, I have no doubt that's a personal reason why I don't like division. Because what are we doing? What are we saying? You can't say understand us at 1 minute and say we don't really like you the next.
Yeah.
You know, understand us, get to understand us. Oh, but no, we don't like how you operate.
Yeah. So work together and
bridge building, I think, is what I'd like to see more of it. More bridge building, because think about all those things, the positive things that could do. Quite a lot, actually. And actually, it goes beyond even me in terms of my work, because it's about people I'm not aware of or don't know, or schools I'm not aware of, or charities or organisations. I think there is something to be said about making things socially binding normal.
Yeah.
So this is my way of politely saying, or as politely as possible, that when it comes to advocacy and ambassadorship, please do think about having socially binding people in those roles, because they potentially are going to translate something quite significant to the communities they represent. Something that Vanessa Swaby talks about, you know, community spirit, representing the community in a healthy and objective way. So I think that would be good, because if it isn't socially binding, if it isn't relatable to the vox populi, me and you, the general public, then it can miss a beat or two, because there's a detachment. And it's by no means me criticising celebrity culture or the fact that celebrities exist. They do, don't they?
Yeah.
It's just about what are the outcomes, and why is it so wrong or to be questioned then that just normal folk within their communities can supply that socially binding element of bringing either communities together, advocacy, connections, sharing information, life skills, wherever it goes. I think a bit of that is needed as well in the next 10 months.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, as you know, I stepped down from being an ambassador for the National Autistic Society.
You did, yeah.
Earlier this year, and one of the main reasons was because they wanted people that were of celebrity status.
Indeed.
Which I completely understand from an awareness point of view. They've got bigger followings, bigger audience.
Yeah.
But I completely am with you. To me, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter about your fame. What really should matter is what you put into the community and the awareness and the work that you deliver to raise awareness to the cause. Because I could be famous tomorrow for doing the wrong thing.
Exactly.
And an ambassador for autism, but the crux of that is the fame shouldn't matter. What should matter is the work that you put in.
Yeah, in fact, you've hit it on the head, haven't you? In the sense that fame, you almost have to ignore it in one way, because it's what is actually being done. You're absolutely right. The nuts and bolts of what you're doing. Yeah, there are plenty of famous people who are quite modest about what they do with their money or their time, or or certain charities they put money into and they don't publicise it. But that's about character. It's regardless of whether they've been in movies or things like that. We're talking about one's character, aren't we? So yeah, I totally agree. It should be about what you do, what you supply, your philosophy, your outlook, what you want to get done within your community. Yeah.
And I think I was with Naz for 10 years.
Yes.
And so I just felt it should have been more about the work that you put in, the volunteering, the speeches and everything else, rather than hey, you could have a video go viral overnight and just because you're autistic you suddenly become an autistic ambassador. And I get it, it's raising awareness, it's getting people to go, oh, he's autistic or she's autistic, and I could be her one day or I could be him one day.
I would say it's about being the best version of you.
Yeah.
Not parent said, I want my daughter to be like you, and I quickly said back, no, what you want is for her to be the best version of herself.
Yes.
I'm very cautious about being an inspiration. I'm very cautious about that word, because you're losing a bit of objectivity somewhat. Yeah. It's all right to be inspired by people, maybe more by their actions than seeing them as
rather than their fame.
That's right. Yeah. And I don't think what we're saying is that controversial. I think it's probably, I hope it translates, and maybe actually what people are sort of thinking, you know, what do we want out of the community? It's very important. Don't think it should be kind of pushed aside. It's communities need each other, in the sense that, you know, how does it work if communities aren't part? Because human beings all have communities, don't they? And yeah, there's loads of things we can advocate for. You could argue, couldn't you? You know, different things that probably you and I aren't aware of, but that's the whole point, isn't it? You're starting on the baseline of getting the information out there. So I'm with you on that it needs to, yeah, it needs to be community minded. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, thank you for coming back on. You're so insightful, and again, just thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me.